For just a moment, cast your minds back to the days when golf didn't mean titanium shafts, massive metal drivers, awesome power hitters, state-of-the-art golf balls, and a fleet of private jets ferrying their multi-million-dollar owners from tournament to tournament. Let's go back to the days of simplicity and elegance.
As Ozzie Pickworth walks from the tee, the idol of Melbourne, placid Peter Thompson, takes up his stunts. Thompson is Australia's greatest golfer.
A golfer who strode to the ball briskly and struck it without notable effort. A champion whose record in major titles has been unequalled by his countrymen before or since. He was one of a cavalcade of young Australians who made their mark on the world stage in the post-war years of the 50s. In his own words, playing golf is not an art at which one can demonstrate one's gifts. It is a craft, a trade, a profession, prize fight, all in one. And what a scrapper he was. In the toughest and most time-honoured arena of all, the British Open, Thompson would finish in the top 10 18 times between 1951 and 1971. After finishing second in 1952 to Bobby Locke at Royal Lytham and equal second to Ben Hogan a year later at Carnoustie, Thompson would claim the first of his 5 Open Championships at Royal Birkdale in 1954. In 1955, the Open returned to St Andrews, and Thompson was there to reclaim it. In 1956, he would make it a hat-trick of wins with his victory at Hoylake.
This is a very unexpected honour.
He had done what Varden and Hagen, Jones and Locke had failed to do, to win the British Open 3 years in succession. In fact, he was the first man to win the title in 3 successive years since the championship was decided over 4 rounds in 1892. And no man has matched the feat since. Thompson wasn't finished with the Open, not by any means. In 1957, he returned to St Andrews and finished runner-up to Bobby Locke, his great friend and adversary. In 1958, he shot 278 at Lytham and St Anne's, the lowest total in British Open history. But it was only enough to tie with Dave Thomas.
Thompson was to finish the 36 holes 4 strokes ahead of his rival. His 4th win, but even so, it was one of the finest efforts by a British player for many a golfing year.
There would be a 5th title. In 1965, he would return to Royal Birkdale, and with the final round 71, take the Open once again. Only Harry Varden with 6 had won the title more often. While Thompson had dominated the Open stage in England and Scotland, he had a profound influence on golf in this country. He'd won the Australian Open at Metropolitan in 1951, but would fill his trophy cabinet before winning again at Commonwealth in 1967. He would win a 3rd title at Kooyonga in South Australia in 1972. There were so many famous victories, none more so than the Canada Cup of 1959.
Peter Thompson, 4 times British Open champion, tees off for Australia. And now his partner, Kel Nagel. And the Parade of Nations is underway as Australia and Ireland begin the 72-hole track. Thompson has his putt for a 66. It's close, but not quite good enough. Thompson makes sure this time, and it's a 67 for Peter. On the tee, Peter Thompson starts his last round. Australia and the United States are paired together, so now it's Snead's turn to drive. With 4 of the world's great golfers in the same foursome, the largest crowd in Australian golf history follows this match. Here's Thompson hitting to the final green. He's 1 over par. It's a magnificent shot that stops 10 feet from the pin. Thompson gets his par 4, and his 72-hole total is 275, the same as Leonard of Canada. Australia wins the Canada Cup by 10 shots over the United States in second place. A great victory for Thompson and Nagel as they repeat their Canada Cup victory of 1954.
There would be campaigns in the United States. In the mid-50s, Thompson won the Texas Centennial Open, beating Middlecoff and Gene Littler in a playoff. He would return in the 80s and dominate as a senior. In 1985 alone, he won 9 times. Thompson, the golfer, was a globetrotter. His list of tournament victories encompassing Europe, South Africa, the United States, Australasia, and most importantly, Asia, where he played such a major role in the development of golf in the Far East. As he says himself, the professional's life is an odd mixture of maestro and virtuoso. Not so long ago, he was a teacher and club maker, a servant of the game. Now it is possible to be an actor, an entertainer, an entrepreneur, and a manufacturer all at once. Tonight, we honour a great Australian, a great sportsman who's plied his chosen profession with dignity, with integrity, and with honour, and has been an example to all who have played the game. Tonight, at the Sport Australia Hall of Fame, we proudly elevate Peter Thompson to the status of legend.
This is a great surprise to me. I'd rather not do this, but anyway, thank you for that. You know, I'm in the midst of great sportsmen who've done marvellous things, and I must say that any reference to my humility or modesty comes from Don Bradman, with whom I grew up as the legend and the sporting hero who had that humility and modesty. And my God, if you did anything in sporting life, you had to match yourself against this great man. And it taught me, and I'm sure it taught everybody of my era, that you must be modest in your achievements. And still today that applies. And I think Pat Rafter is the epitome of Don Bradman. And I'm pleased to hear that.